This is Mark Bell from Slingshot World Headquarters, and I'm answering a question. We got a Q&A here today with the People's Coach. This question comes in from the Inner Circle off of my YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much for all the support. We are up over 30,000 followers. Very, very cool. And it's going to be no time soon, or it's going to be sometime soon rather, that I'm going to be saying thank you because we have 60,000 followers. So let's just keep spreading the word. But anyway, the question, and I think this is an amazing question because this is a tough thing to do. Inner Circle asks, how do you go from junk food, like just kind of eating like crap, which is where most of us came from, into a diet where you end up controlling your calories, like where you end up, going carnivore, or you end up going keto, or you end up just being on a healthier diet, period. There's a saying that says, the way to eat an elephant, right? You know how damn big an elephant is one bite at a time, right? And you may have also heard this terminology before where people say don't bite off more than you can chew, right? That would be the scenario that I'd lay out for you, is like, it's just going to be one foot in front of the other. There's going to be a lot of trial and error. Not only is it one foot in front of the other, but it's like take 2 steps forward, take 2 steps back, and so forth. You might take 3 steps forward and 2 steps back, and 4 steps forward and 5 steps back, and it might be really rocky. Your weight loss and weight gain is going to be going like this a lot, right? Let's say that the goal is to, lose 50 pounds, and let's say, that the 50 pounds is down here, and right now let's say you're 250 and you want to be 200, right? We want to figure out how can we go this way, down that slope. The best way to get there isn't going to be to try to free fall. That's going to be the most dangerous, and it's also going to have the biggest rebound straight back up. We would love to be able to find something that's going to allow us to head towards this spot for a long period of time, and maybe you have some ups, maybe you have some downward swing where you're still heading towards that goal. Maybe from 250, maybe you go to like 240, but then maybe you go back up to 245. Then maybe several days later you're 243, then maybe several days after that you're back to 240 again. That is probably the way that your success is going to look like. Your success will always look like that for everything that you do. You want to be a millionaire, you want to make a lot of money. You can turn things around, and you can end up in a situation where you all of a sudden start to make a lot more money. But when you start to make a lot more money, usually the federal government and other people go, oh, cool, and they go, whoosh, and they take a lot of that away from you. So everything is always like very gradual, even if you don't want it to be. If you went from the lowest tax bracket to the highest tax bracket, it would be gradual anyway because of how much the federal government is going to take away from you, and then also how much it would cost to put forth an effort to be able to make that much money. You more than likely will have to hire some people, and now we're starting to see more and more of that money being pulled away from you. I feel like your diet, your nutrition, your exercise, I think all these things are going to be very, very similar. And so what we have to try to do is we want to set some guidelines for ourselves, but we don't want to be too hard on ourselves. The shoulds, the woulds, the coulds, those are acts of coercion. You don't want to be policing yourself all the time. I feel like we parent ourselves too hard. We scold ourselves a little too much. We repeatedly show ourselves that we can't do something, and then we reinforce that by saying you can't. You know what? You're right. You can't do it. Look, man, you mess up everything. You mess up your diet. You mess up your work. You're not good at nothing, right? And we need to figure out a way to feel good about some stuff. So let's try to figure out a way to get you to do shit, because we need to do a lot of stuff in order for us to feel good about ourselves, in order for us to head in the correct direction all the time. Let me employ a couple of things in your diet. You may have heard me say this several million times on this channel, but I'll say it again. How about we get in some 10-minute walks every day? How about we eat a lot of protein? How about we just go with at least 1 gram per pound of body weight? These are all add-ons to your life rather than subtracting, okay? How about we try to make sure that we hydrate ourselves? Remember, in previous content that I put out before, I've talked to you about drinks like Zevia that are just that just have stevia in them, no artificial sweeteners, and they got a little bit of a sweet flavor to them. But you can also get things that can help hydrate you that aren't just regular, soft drinks that taste good by getting something like Keto Vitals. These things have potassium and sodium and magnesium and stuff like that to help hydrate the body, and they also taste really good. In addition to that, let's work on trying to get a good amount of sleep. Sleep ties into this so massively because sleep, the 10-minute walks, and even some exercise through some weight training. We'll talk about weight training just for a second, but getting enough sleep is going to give you enough energy to make the correct decisions every day. So your question is, how do I get myself to go from eating a crappy diet into having a better diet? A lot of times when you have a crappy diet, you probably have crappy sleep. Now, it might not be the case for you, but they normally go hand in hand, because normally the crappy food that you eat has a negative impact on your life, and it starts to disrupt everything that your body is capable of and everything that your body can normally do. I think it's something like 16% of the population. It's like only 16% of the population has full access to what their body can do metabolically, and it's simply just from eating too much, from eating too much junk food. It's a very low percentage of people. That's the people that are lifting every day. That's the people that are making sure they're exercising every day. That's the people that are making sure that they're not overeating. That's the people that are conscious of making sure they get enough sleep. So the sleep is going to be huge because it's going to assist you in making better decisions every day. Just think, if you're tired and you're fatigued, they say fatigue makes cowards of us all. Well, fatigue makes dummies of us all too. When you're tired, it's going to be that much harder to make the right decision. Next time that you're craving something, I would line that right up along with probably having a bad night of sleep somewhere in previous days. Happens to me all the time because I suck at sleep. I'm still working on it, but it's something that I'm not very good at, even with all the different things I've tried and even with all the knowledge that I have. Lifting weights. Lifting weights is important for many, many reasons, and fitness in general, and just the act of like going to the gym. And I know that some gyms are shut down at the moment, but lifting weights is a way to occupy your time. You guys seen the shirt, Occupy Your Mind, the hottest shirt out in the streets right now. That has a lot of meaning to me. That has a lot of meaning behind it. Occupy your mind means do a bunch of stuff every single day so you don't build up a bunch of anxiety. Do a bunch of stuff every single day so your mind's not occupied with food. Our minds are occupied with food, anxiety, depression. We're worried about what this person thinks of us and what that person thinks of us. And then we're constantly thinking about where are we going to eat next? Where's the next meal coming from? Are we going to order pizza? Are we getting DoorDash? Are we doing this? Are we doing that? It's just kind of a constant influx, and it takes a lot of energy to be thinking about those things. The break that you have of going to the gym, a lot of times it takes us 20, 30 minutes even just to drive to the gym. So it's 20 minutes there, 20 minutes back. You got a 40-minute total drive. That's 40 minutes that you didn't eat crap junk food, right? And that's 40 minutes that you spent probably thinking about something productive. At least on the way there, you're probably thinking about, I can't wait to get in the gym today and do something that's going to help change my body. And if you're not thinking that way, you need to start thinking that way. You get inside the gym and you spend 40 minutes or an hour in there. That's another hour that you spent away from your kitchen. It's another hour that you spent doing stuff. It's another hour that you spent, hopefully, don't have your phone with you while you're working out. It's another hour that you spent away from social media. It's another hour that you spent occupying your mind with something that's really productive, and it's towards your goals. People, please do a bunch of shit every day that goes towards your goals, regardless of how much other stuff that you have in a day. Regardless of your kids, regardless of your current job, regardless of your other obligations. Make sure that, when you die, that you don't die with a bunch of music in your heart. I heard that quote a bunch of years ago, and I just thought, man, that's amazing. I'm not going to die with inventions and ideas and creations and things that I want to make. I'm going to try to make them now when I feel healthy, when I feel strong. You have the ability to do the same thing. When we're talking about, the reason why I'm not talking so much about food, I did mention eating more protein, is because we are talking about human behavior, and there is nothing that costs this earth more money, and there's nothing that is more frustrating and impossible to understand than human behavior. Think of all the different drugs, and think of all the different fields of medicine and all the different experts that come from that one thing, human behavior. It results in everything from obesity to war to religion to, I mean, it includes it all, you know. And so I apologize if I'm not saying, hey, eat asparagus and eat, 4 ounces of beef, 3 times a day, and then, eat chicken breast and broccoli 4 times. I'm not that kind of person. You're not going to get that kind of information from me, because I believe that these issues are deeply rooted and they're a much bigger story. Now, how do you go from eating junk to having a better diet? You're going to do so one step at a time. Let's take those add-ons that I gave you, the walking, the sleeping, the adding more protein to your diet. Take those things and allow those things to start subtracting stuff out of your normal diet. Start to think about, look, you have carbohydrates as an energy source, or you have fat as an energy source. We don't want to be loading up on both, because if we're loading up on protein and we're loading up on fat and carbs, then we're going to get ourselves in a situation where we end up overeating. You want to pick. I'm going to either be on kind of a low carb-ish diet, or I'm going to be on a low fat-ish diet where your fat calories are down a little bit lower. Each person is very different, but I would say a low carb diet would be anything below 100 grams a day is a good start. A low fat diet, depending on your size, obviously all this depends on your size, but I would say a low fat diet would probably be anything under like 75 grams. If you're a bigger guy, maybe under 100 grams. Well, those would be good reference points. But you pick. You're either going to really run a lot off of carbs, or you're going to run a lot off of fat. Obviously, we're going to be able to run off of both. You want to be able to run off of carbs and fat. The body is always going to be able to decide what energy source it needs for the particular moment, and we can't just completely cut out macronutrients. You can't really cut out fat. It's going to show up in just about everything. Carbohydrates are kind of easier to cut out, but they're still in vegetables and things of that nature. But there's no reason to try to cut any of these things out completely. One of the biggest problems I see when it comes to this is snacking, because a snack to me is a double negative. Even a sandwich at lunchtime to me is kind of a double negative, or a burrito at lunchtime. And let me just kind of explain why. So the burrito, we got beans, we got rice, and we have chicken on there. Normally, if you get it from you get it from a restaurant, or you get it from, it's just gonna have way too many calories in it. It's got sour cream, guacamole. Like if we're really getting one that tastes really good, right? It's gonna have way too many calories in it. So that in itself is problematic. But it's also gonna fill you up for a long time. On top of it filling you up for a long time, which isn't necessarily bad, but it's filling you up and it's taking away, you end up replacing, you have like what I would call protein displacement, because you ate all this carbs and fat, and yes, there's some protein in the burrito, but you ate a lot of fat and you ate a lot of carbohydrates, and it took up a lot of room and a lot of space for food that you could have eaten that could have primarily been protein. It could have went more towards muscle building. It could have went more towards your goal of being down here at 200 rather than staying at 250. Because our metabolism being revved up is going to be a big piece of this puzzle. And metabolism being revved up is a weird term, but all I'm talking about is having more muscle mass. Remember, muscles are going to burn calories for you. You don't have to tell your muscles to burn calories for you. They already know. Muscles are expensive. They cost you something. They cost you calories, period. Plain and simple. They need energy. They need nutrients. That's how they continue their day. That's how they help, that's how they're productive towards whatever movements that you're trying to do for a given day. So your muscles need calories. And if we continue to fuel the muscle, especially with protein, it's going to be easier for you to maintain that muscle mass and or even potentially gain that muscle mass, or gain new muscle mass rather. So I kind of look at, you have a sandwich, a burrito, those things, it takes up space for otherwise more healthy food, but so do snacks. Potato chips, pretzels, all these kinds of things. I would suggest that you start to cut a lot of these things out. But again, how do we eat an elephant? One bite at a time. This is gonna be one step at a time. So we don't need to just pull everything out of the diet, because if we pull everything out of the diet, you're gonna be screwed. If you're like, that's it, on Monday I'm going carnivore. Wednesday you're going, or Thursday or Friday. It's bound to happen. I don't care how much discipline you think you have. It's going to be very, very difficult to make a 180, to completely start heading in a different direction out of nowhere. it's gonna take some steps, and you're gonna have some missteps. You're gonna go back and forth, and you're gonna screw up here and there. But the important thing is that you give yourself some guidelines and you start to set some boundaries. So if it was me and I was trying to make better decisions, I would say, you know what? I need to figure out a way to limit snacks or to get rid of them. You could potentially still have some snacks, but the snacks would have to be a lower caloric impact. More recently, I've heard a lot of people talking about eating popcorn. My brother eats popcorn, and it just doesn't have much of anything in it other than fiber. And it's like, it's a big bowl of something to kind of chew on and stuff your face with while you're watching TV. It's kind of great because it's not costing you much from a caloric perspective. It gives you something salty and crunchy to chomp on while you're watching television. You can find other things that are low in calories as well, such as Jell-O. Throw a little whipped cream on top of it. You guys heard me talk a million times about the Slingshot protein. I take my Slingshot protein and I mix it in some yogurt. I get the Fage yogurt, the 2%, and I mix chocolate Slingshot protein in there or the vanilla, and it tastes amazing. It's low calorie, it's spiked with a lot of protein, and it gives me a good little snack. So you're probably gonna need some of those little treats and those little snacks, but on the same time, you want your things to be things that are gonna help you towards your goal. As Ted Neiman has pointed out before, who talks a lot about protein leveraging, if you're not hungry for protein, you're actually really probably not that hungry. So you have to think, like if you're like, oh, I don't really feel like eating a chicken breast. Well, you're probably really not that hungry because everyone always feels like eating a brownie. So don't think that you're unique either. You're not. Don't think that it's really different for you, because I feel like eating a donut every day. I feel like eating a pizza every day. I have to have discipline just like anybody else. Yes, it's kind of ingrained, and yes, I have taught myself these things, but the biggest thing that's helped the most is the fact that I tell myself that I'm going to do something and then I follow through on the other end. That's going to be the key for a lot of you, is to follow through on the other end. But do it with small stuff. Start with some small goals. Don't even say that you're going to go from 250 to 200. Say that you're going to go from 250 to 249. And when you're 249, talk about weighing 248. 1 pound at a time. You're going to chop that elephant down one bite at a time. It's going to take a long time for you to really figure this out. And again, don't be discouraged. Don't hate on yourself. The shoulds, the woulds, the coulds, that kind of stuff we do it to ourselves too much. And rather than saying what you should do, just teach yourself that, hey, this is the best way to get towards the goal that we already talked about. And because it's the best way, and because the best way makes me feel good, I'm going to continue down that path. Rather than, oh man, you should be doing this. Well, look at this person over here. You know, they're doing it. Why can't you do it? You should be more like them. No, you shouldn't be more like them. Don't worry about what they're doing. You need to be tied up and wrapped up in what you're doing and concentrate and continue to learn and continue to grow and continue to make better decisions. So, in my opinion, that's the best way. That's the best route to go from eating a bunch of junk food into a carnivore diet. I would also suggest that you check out Ted Neiman's book. I know I recommend him a ton. It probably seems like at this point I'm trying to up the sales of his book, but it's a great book. It's all infographics. It's super easy to understand, but basically he's just trying to teach you, look man, if you eat more protein, it's gonna help you to drive your calories down. So if you forget everything else that I said in this video, remember that one thing. Remember that one thing. Spike up your protein, eat a lot of protein. Eat at least 1 gram per pound of body weight, if not even 1.5 or 2, depending on how much you weigh. For me, I'm doing 400 grams every day, and it feels like my job is a pain in the neck to get that much protein in, but there's no room for anything else. Even if I wanted to eat something else, I just don't have space for it at this time. So, you know, kill yourself with all of those great things. You know, just load your plate up with more stuff to do, more positives, the 10-minute walks, the more sleep, the more hydration, the more protein, and it will make it seem that it's not that difficult once you start to get to the other side. Hopefully that helps. Inner Circle, thank you so much for the question. Any of you guys have any questions on anything that I mentioned just now? Please put them in the comments below. Thank you so much for following along. Strength is never weakness, weakness is never strength. Catch y'all later.